see in this part of Gatsby's life that he uses the word old sport as an example a lot. I believe he has actually repeated this catchphrase like 43 times, and we can see this catchphrase coming out of the mouth of Tom 3 to 4 times. So Fitzgerald might have had some, some reason to, keep repeating that word through the mouth of Gatsby. And then once he entered the real, we said that we know that the real is beyond our meaning-making systems, is outside our ideologies, as is beautifully shown in the purloined letter, and I applied it in my thesis. And this part you can see that Great Gatsby has lost Daisy, Daisy's away, and he's trying to regain Daisy. And it's shown through the sentences that he uses, like, if it wasn't, when he has Daisy in her house, they're looking out the window, and he goes, if it wasn't for the mist, we could see your home from the other side, and then he mentions the green light. But about the Nick, we have a different kind of story. At the beginning, he's a very literary man. He's he has gone to West Egg for new adventures, and that's how he gets started with his journey in the real. When he is actually witnessing Gatsby and Daisy, and also commenting on that, you can see that little by little, by learning more about the people of West Egg, he becomes a little less literary, and he becomes more conservative, and then the more he moves on to the imaginary phase of his life, he becomes less literary. What is very important here is that at this point, Gatsby and Nick are simultaneously or concurrently at the symbolic order. But what is the difference between Gatsby and Nick? As I mentioned before, Gatsby is moving through symbolic, gaining more knowledge, and also using more language, is not at all becoming less literary. But Nick actually becomes more reserved toward the end of the story, and when he is at his imaginary order, which is at the end of the story, you can see on the very first page of the novel that he's actually puts it into words and says, "When I came back from East last summer, I felt that I wanted the work to be in uniform." So that is exactly where Lacan says that in imaginary order we have the unity and we have the uniform, and so on and so forth. The findings of my thesis are 3 things, I believe. I believe that all 3 orders, along with objet quotidien, apply to both of the characters. But as I mentioned before, object quotidien is, I talked about it only about Gatsby, regarding Gatsby. And actual parts of the text have been applied to the Lacanian, actually Lacanian psychoanalysis have been applied to the parts of the text as I showed, and I have them in my thesis. And I think that it adds to human knowledge, since it's real and Lacan is real, and that's how I end with how it adds to human knowledge. Yes, thank you, the panelists.
The problem is the vagueness, the double meaning, when you start telling us that these characters are real. What do you mean by real? When you say that Great Gatsby is real, do you mean that he's really great? What's the difference between the term great when you say that Great Gatsby is real and real as used by Jacques Lacan?
Actually, when I was reading the novel, I read it many times. Once from the point of view of Gatsby, and the other time from the point of view of Nick Carraway. And I found that that's based on the characters that we actually know about Fitzgerald. They are very likely to. They have a lot of similarities with Fitzgerald himself. That's why I said one part of Nick shows one part of his character and Gatsby shows another. And also Fitzgerald has used Nick Carraway to comment on his own other part. That's what I meant by the real. And it's actually very different from what Lacan would say. Lacan would say, firstly, he himself had a lot of problems explaining real. And what we know about it is like the purloined letter, as I said, real works as it's like a curtain. You don't know what really is behind that, which is actually very different from what I said about the Gatsby.
Thank you, Ms. Ensafi, for your thesis and your presentation. Can you go back to your findings slide, please?
Sure.
The second sentence that you are writing.
Yeah, I changed it. Sorry, I changed it to Lacanian psychoanalysis applied to actual parts of the text. Sorry, I found it right.
And now can you go to your research questions, please?
I haven't included them here, but I have.
You have it in your
yes.
computer? Can
yes.
you go through your research questions?
There are actually 3 questions,
yes.
And the findings are the
yes,
answers.
I know, but I want you to read them again.
Sure. 1. In what ways does the text seem to reveal characters' emotional investments in objet patia? 2. Does any part of the text seem to represent Lacan's notion of the imaginary, symbolic, and real orders?
First 2 questions. I have a problem with this word seem. Why you repeated this in the questions?
Repeat that?
Seem to reveal, seem to show.
Well, because I wrote them actually at the beginning
Are you sure
of the
about what you said
right
about
now,
the novel
yes.
and about the Lacanian orders and findings?
Yes, definitely.
So this actually shows a kind of hesitation that you are not sure about what you're doing.
I understand.
And go to the third question.
Do any Lacanian concepts account for parts of the text that one might say? Parts of the text?
Do you have author?
No. Parts of the text that one might.
You are reading of, but actually there is no of there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't get what you said.
You've forgotten. You have to be careful about your grammar because this was your problem throughout your thesis, specifically in your findings. Here you have number 3. Do any Lacanian concepts, okay, account for parts the text that one might say the thesis can actually add to human knowledge?
Yes.
The research question is grammatically problematic. And do any Lacanian concepts? Okay, first of all, I believe that you have to check the format of the title page because I think something must be changed in your title page, okay? That sentence that we have normally is a cliche, a thesis submitted for the partial proof. I think it should come first. You have to check it with the other thesis in the library.
Sure.
Or if there is any special format, you document it. In your abstract, you mentioned your research questions. Normally, they are not mentioned, okay? We do not need research questions in the abstract. You have to say what you're going to do and mention your findings. Or if you want